Hey, how's it going? It's Keith Townsend from the CTOadvisor.com with another CTO dose right here from Interop ITX 2018 in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And I have the CEO of RackN, Robert Hirschfield. Robert, how's it going?
Going great, Keith.
So I can call you Rob, right? We're
do.
friends. I invited you all the way from Austin to talk at Interop. So I figured last minute, I guess that means that we're officially friends now.
Friends.
And we spent a whole hour running together this morning.
We sweated together.
Almost 6 miles, man.
We had to brave the Vegas streets.
So as an appreciation for you coming all the way to talk about Interop, to talk at Interop about Composable, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about RackN.
All right, excellent.
So help me wrap my head around what is RackN and what value do you add to the enterprise?
So RackN writes software
that
automates bare metal infrastructure. So what we do is we finally fix the making servers easy to manage problem. So our goal is ultimately that a physical server, should be as easy to manage as a virtual machine.
So this isn't a new concept per se. And matter of fact, companies much bigger than yours are betting big on this. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is betting big on bare metal servers and the ability to consume servers, bare metal, as easily as you would consume an EC2 instance.
And they're doing it as a managed service provider.
Right.
We are a software company. So
exactly.
We've created a product, anybody can run it. We don't require you to use our hardware or our spec or anything like that. We take legacy gear, stuff that's already deployed, and then we help automate that better.
So there's the promise of this. I've had vendor after vendor. I remember back in 2010, Dell coming on site and showing me Open Manage and this company that they had bought and how I could automate provisioning. And one of the first areas where this fell down was like state. I'm like, okay, once I deploy this, how do I know what's been deployed and when it's changed? And then how that impacts my ability to manage that infrastructure afterwards.
I was at Dell when they bought the companies that were doing this, right? There was this huge interest in automating machines, right?
Right.
And the difference is we take a DevOps API-driven approach. So everything we do is designed to be part of a workflow, work with other tools, be part of that system. And the vendor tools, especially from the hardware vendors, are really like, how do I set the BIOS? How do I configure the machine? Which you have to do.
Right.
But that's really not what people are trying to accomplish when they're looking at cloud-like infrastructure. What they want to do is they want to say, I have a process that starts in my CI/CD pipeline, generates an image, deploy that image. Before you do that, patch the BIOS, scrub the disks, encrypt the data, right? Set up my networking the way I want, work through all those steps, and then deliver a server.
So let me give you a practical example where I would think my mindset in the enterprise is that I just buy Kubernetes and we're moving to a cloud native infrastructure anyway, and all of my developers are going to consume containers directly. Why do I need something like RackN?
You still need infrastructure. So, right, you could do all that work in the cloud,
and
that would be great. When you get to a certain scale, or if you need a certain amount of control, or you're in edge infrastructure and it's locked in a data center in the environment, then you actually have to have something manage the infrastructure.
So Kubernetes, if I'm abstracting away my infrastructure, period, I just don't operate the infrastructure, then that's fine. I can go out and do that.
Your developers don't operate.
Or developers don't, or the infrastructure has been abstracted away from me, period, and I'm consuming Kubernetes as a service or whatever the model. But if I have to manage infrastructure, if I have to deploy nodes and clusters, etc., I have to have a pretty stable underlay. So you guys are all about the underlay.
We are entirely, it's underlay is exactly the right word. And stable is a funny word here. What you have to have is a consistent, reliable underlay.
Right.
And it might not be stable. What you might actually find is that in building that underlay, the firmware has to get patched, the operating system has to get patched, the Docker infrastructure has to get patched, the control infrastructures that you build around Kubernetes, the sidecars, the administrative, the scanning things, all those certificates, all that stuff is actually very dynamic still. And so if you build Kubernetes like we used to build VMware clusters, assuming you would never patch it, then you're not really in a cloud native architecture. Cloud native assumes that I'm constantly evolving all of the stack of my infrastructure.
CI/CD from bottom up, from the infrastructure all the way up through the application.
And you know, we saw with WannaCry, right, and Spectre, you sometimes have to go patch your BIOS, right? And those aren't the last bugs we're going to find.
Exactly.
And so as hardware's coming, you know, hardware's going through actually a lot more innovation than people realize. Operating systems are still churning. We find bugs everywhere in the stack. You know, what you want to do is you want to isolate your developers from that. You want to give, but somebody somewhere cares about the infrastructure. Either you outsource it, but if you have to own it or you want to own it, what we're trying to do is make it as painless as possible. So you don't need a team of people. You can actually shrink your infrastructure investments and still get really high quality infrastructure experiences.
So Rob, if someone wanted to engage you guys, who do they have to talk to? Do I have to fill out some form and some sales guy gives me a call? Yeah.
No. So actually our model is very self-service driven. Digital Rebar is sort of the open source part that's our product, and then we build layers on top of that. And we actually encourage people to just download and try it. So our goal is that you can go to Digital Rebar, rebar.digital is the website, or portal.rackn.io is sort of our self-service portal. You can do the demo on your laptop. You can get some servers from a company called Packet.net, where you can rent their metal. And you can go through the experience. It takes a couple minutes to download. Most people are actually fully operational in under an hour, installing Kubernetes or doing something like that. We've made it really simple. And then if they like it, get involved in our community, call us, work with us, right? We help them take it to the next level. But we believe infrastructure can be simple, and so we let the product do the talking for us.
So Rob, I really appreciate you, first jumping in at Interop and giving a great overview of composable. You are a skeptic, and that's perfectly fine. Can people find you on Twitter, social media? How do they find you?
I am very active on Twitter, so I'm Zehicle, Z-E-H-I-C-L-E.
So vehicle with a Z.
Vehicle with a Z. Going back to my electric car days, it's Zero and Vehicle, so if you want to think about it that way. So I'm very active on Twitter. We actually run a podcast called Latest Shiny.
I've been on it.
You've been on it. We talk to great guests and talk about edge infrastructure and DevOps and CI/CD and all sorts of great stuff with that. So people should check that out. RackN, obviously, for the company. And just have fun. We love to chat it up, and we're not very vendory. We love to let talk tech.
That's why I asked you to present at Interop. Great show still. If you guys haven't followed Interop, a lot of great changes. You can visit Interop at interop.com or Interop ITX now is the new brand.com. Until then, talk to you next CTO Dose. You can follow me on the web at CTO Advisor on Twitter, thectoadvisor.com, and you can get these and other great videos, ctodose.com. Talk to you next, CTO Dose.